Hi friends, welcome to the Plain Fun RC channel. I'm your host, Saul. We are getting started with the wing. And the wings look great. Beautiful foam core, just did a gorgeous job. They really are just extremely well done, especially considering that this kit is actually 40 years old because it turns out it was made in 1982. So we're continuing here with the Mystery 3000 by Scorpio Models. We're going to go ahead and be putting on our leading edge. And you'll notice this leading edge is actually flat, and that'll make more sense as we go along. So we have our epoxy out. We're just going to go ahead and put on our epoxy on the leading edge and tape it in place, let that dry overnight, and we'll do both halves. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, we've got our leading edge and trailing edge in place, as you can see. There's our trailing edge up top, leading edge on the bottom, and just going along great. Went on really well. No problems whatsoever. Just a little epoxy. We'll let that sit overnight. All right. There's our wings as we begin our next adventure on building the Mystery 3000. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update here, you can see our leading edge and our trailing edge is dry and in place. So we need to go ahead and do a little shaping on the leading edge and the trailing edge. We'll get that done. We need to go ahead and join our wings too. So let's get those things taken care of, and more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update here on the wings, let's talk about what we got going on. So we went ahead and we rounded off our leading edges, and you can see it right there from the side. And of course, went ahead and smoothed everything out with regards to our leading edges, making sure everything is nice and even. Now, one very, very, very important thing I want you to keep in mind when doing the wings, and I'll show you what it looks like on the plans in a second. You're going to notice there's a portion right in here to here on both wing halves. That leading edge does not get rounded off, and the reason for that is the kit includes this triangular stock, as you can see here. And the triangular stock actually gets glued right onto that section on both wing halves, and they call it the anti-stall. So, whatever. I'm sure it probably does, but that's what they call it in the manual. So it'll get glued on there, and so that's why it's important. Do not round off that section. Let me show you what I'm talking about here on the plans. You can see on this overhead shot of the wing, you can see the triangular stock here. And let me pull back a little bit, give you a better idea. So anyway, all right, we're gonna go ahead. We can see what other steps we have to do. We've got our leading edge and our trailing edge in place. Now we've got to put number 50 and number 51 on there as well. Glue that in there. And if you're interested in where we are with regards to the wings, let me go ahead and show you real quick in terms of the instructions. In case once again you don't have them, feel free to hit pause on your video. All right, then more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update here on the wings, let's talk about what we have going on. So at the very end, you'll notice here a piece of trailing edge. They call it the anti-stall fairing. It is obviously not mounted in the same configuration as the airfoil. And the reason being, and at first I didn't quite understand, but then I realized, basically it's washout in a wing. And washout in a wingtip prevents stalling. So that's why you see it in the opposite direction of the airfoil itself. Now what we'll do is, now that we have those in place, we've got our one there and we've got our other one right here, we're about ready to go ahead and put on the wing rib number 50, and then that fits. It has the same pattern, so it just fits right over the end of it. And then what'll happen, the winglets at the end of the wing, much like our long easy that you see over here, they will then get bolted to this piece of plywood. So let's go ahead, let's get these glued in place, and more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, our focus is the dowel right here, and you can see the dowel that's going to go in place. So the way that you make the groove in the dowel, now you can do it a couple different ways, but what it's recommending in the manual is that you go through and just, you take it and you can use a round file and just kind of cut a groove in the center of the wing on both wing halves. And I did that. That is one way you could do. The other way that I've done it in the past is you can go through, put the wing halves together, and then what you would do is you can place the wing in the wing saddle. And you'll notice here on the die cut portion of the former, you can just see the circle. That's where the dowel will go through. So when the wing is in the saddle, you can just take a drill bit and you can just pass it through the opening and drill right into the wing. That's also another way of doing it as well. But we're going to go ahead and try the way that it's showing in the manual for right now. See how that works out. And what I did, though, to make it really simple, you can use a round file, which I did use a little bit just to kind of get the groove started in the balsa. But what works extremely well is if you have some sandpaper with a sticky back, or if you just have regular sandpaper, you can put on just a tiny bit of spray adhesive over top of the dowel, and then you just take the dowel and you just move it back and forth through the groove. And because this is foam, white foam, it quickly opens up. You just have to be careful that it's nice and even. In other words, you don't want this end, one end too high or one end too low, so just keep that in mind. We did that on both halves, and it works great. So you can see the other half of the wing right there with its groove. All right, let's go ahead. It's time to get to, let me show you where we're at this moment. We're here, and now we're going to go ahead and we're actually going to, hopefully, I'd like to get the wing halves joined tonight, if at all possible. More to come. All right, friends, as you can see, we have got our wing halves together. And it's looking great, looking really good. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's talk about what we've got going on. So, it took a lot of epoxy to get these together because you've got these dihedral braces here and here, and they just go into the pre-cut slots. You need a lot of glue in here, and in this side, and this side, and on both halves here, here, and here. And it definitely takes some finagling. So if you have this kit and you're drawing the wing halves together, 30-minute at minimum epoxy. Don't go with anything less than 30 because you won't have the time enough to get it together. I would even venture to say even 1 hour epoxy would probably do you a little bit better. But 30-minute, I was able to get it together. So that's where we are right now. We're gonna let that dry completely overnight. And then what we'll do is we'll come back, we'll go through, we'll put a nice big section of fiberglass right in the middle, a medium fiberglass, 2 ounce, to help make sure we have a good, strong center joint. Let me show you where we are on the diagram in case you're interested. Previously, I had mentioned that we were using the file to create the hole for the dowel. That's that right there. And then here is our diagram showing the joining of the center joints, joining of the halves, wing halves together. And then once they're dry, we'll put on the triangular stock here on the front. And then once that's dry, then we've got a couple other pieces here for our next step on completion of the wing. Now, if you're wondering, if you're looking at it from the instructional standpoint, we just finished off, let's see, right in here, this one. Okay, just so you know. All right, friends, the fun never stops. More to come. All right, friends, as you can see, our wing halves are together. I thought I would just take a second to put on the fuselage, and you can see how things are really starting to come together. All right, we've got a couple more steps left on the wing. Let's get it going. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, let's talk about what we have going on at this time. So what we've done is we're going to once again be using our Robart hinge point hinges, as you can see right here. Easy to install. Now, it does come with hinges. It comes with the flat hinges that have the hinge point on them. Once again, I'm not a big fan of these because they are a little difficult to get in and glue in place. My favorites are the CA hinges if they're flat, and the Robart hinge point hinges. They're two of the easiest to glue and mount. Now, a couple things to keep in mind as you're going through and beginning this process. One of the first things you're going to do, these are the pieces in the center of the wing that are going to contain the control rods for the ailerons, and they come pre-routed. Now, what you're looking at here is you're looking at the bottom, and that's very important to keep that in mind because let me show you on the plans here. So this is a bottom view of the wing. Here's our servo, here's our rods, here's our two center pieces I just mentioned a second ago, and of course out here you can see our ailerons as well. So as you're doing your plane, always remember, think bottom. Okay, because this is the portion that's going to be sitting on the fuselage, okay, with the servo hanging upside down, if you will. And for a better side view, here's what I mean right here. If you look at the II cross section here, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So we've got our hinge point hinges in place. Now the plans show 3 hinges, 1, 2, and 3, but I've added a 4th. These are rather large ailerons, not only in terms of length, but also in terms of chord, if you will, or not chord, thickness, well, whatever you want to call it, front to back. Anyway, a lot of surface area there, and I was concerned that 3 hinges may not be enough, so we just added an extra one, and that should take care of it. We shouldn't have any problems. So we're going to go ahead, now that we've got our ailerons hinged, we need to drill the holes in our trailing edge, and then we're going to mount our center pieces. So let's get that going, and more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update here, you can see we've got the center trailing edge pieces in place, and the important thing to keep in mind is you want to put these on first before you go and drill your holes for the hinge point hinges. And the reason for that is because you're going to go through, you're going to take your aileron, okay, and you want to be able to go ahead and insert it onto the actual connecting rod. And then what that's going to do is, you can see here, it'll allow you to mark off the exact locations where the hinges are going to go. Now, once you've gone ahead and you've marked off those spots, the other thing you want to keep in mind, as you can see here, we want to make sure that we measure the proper height in terms of where the hole is going to be drilled. And you can see that marked off by the little pencil mark. A very simple way of doing that is to just take a ruler and measure from the top of the aileron to the top of the hinge point. Then transfer that mark over to the sub-trailing edge as indicated here by the pencil mark. And then you can go ahead and you can drill. What you're looking to do is you want to get it so that way the aileron is sitting nice and flush with the sub-trailing edge. And to give you an example is, let's look at our left aileron over here. So let me get this nice and even. You can see as we look at our aileron how it sits nice and flush with the top, and even nice and flush as well with the center trailing edge, okay? And that's what we're looking for. All right, let me show you where we are in terms of steps. Let's take a look at our illustration here. You can see we are on step 17. We're going to be putting in parts number 59, a couple other parts that are going to be going in the center section that are going to hold the servo in place. And for those that are interested in following along with the instruction manual, you can see that we are going to be right here. And I'm hoping to go ahead and get it all the way up to where we can go ahead and fiberglass the center section and let that sit overnight. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, I thought I'd throw the wing on real quick just to kind of get a little glimpse of what's to come. And boy, she's looking great. I mean, it is definitely a very, very, very unique airplane. We went ahead, we got our anti-stall leading edges in place with just some triangular stock, and we'll do a little sanding there just to kind of smooth things out. So we need to do some final sanding of the wing, then we'll go ahead, we'll put our fiberglass on the center section there, and then after that we'll get our servo installed, do our covering, and we're really getting to the last little bits and pieces. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, we're about ready to go ahead and put on the fiberglass. Let's talk about what we've got going on here. So the width of the fiberglass on the center section of the wing is 122 millimeters. So it's 61 millimeters from the center line over, and that's important because we're going to use the same process that we used for the canard. We're going to go ahead and put some blue tape here along the lines on both sides. Then we're going to go ahead and take our glue stick, and we're just going to put just a very thin layer on there, just enough so we can tack on the actual fiberglass, and then we'll use some medium glass and, of course, some epoxy as well. So let's go ahead and get that done. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update here, let's talk about what we've got going on. We've got our blue tape in place on both sides. We've gone ahead, we put our fiberglass on. We have not yet put on the glue stick. So keep that in mind, because what we're going to do is we're just kind of tracing along where the blue tape is, as you can see here on the left, and then we're going to go ahead, we're going to cut out that section there, so then that's what we're going to go ahead and put on the wing. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, we've got our glue stick in place, we've got our fiberglass cut, and now we're going to go ahead and brush on our epoxy. So let's go ahead and get this going. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue update, you can see we have our epoxy on our fiberglass, and it worked out great. Now, one little tip is once you have your epoxy on your fiberglass and you've scraped off the excess, go ahead and remove the blue tape. Don't let the epoxy dry, otherwise it'll make it that much more difficult to remove the blue tape. Just remember that once the tape is off, take your planing card or whatever you're using to scrape off the excess and just very gently scrape going this way so you can push down any of the fiberglass that may have lifted up while you were removing the blue tape. All right, she looks great. We're going to let her sit for a full 24 hours and more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, we are now doing the top portion of the wing. We've got our blue tape in place. We've got our fiberglass. We haven't yet put on our glue stick, which we're about ready to do. But we've gone ahead. We have trimmed our fiberglass. Now we're going to get our glue stick on and brush on our epoxy. All right, more to come. All right, friends, as you can see, we've got our epoxy over top of our fiberglass in place. We're going to let this sit for a full 24 hours. Come back and trim it, and the fiberglassing of the wing is going to be done. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see we have gone through, we've trimmed our fiberglass. It just came out really well. Very happy with it. Very, very happy with it. Can't say enough good things about it. So what we're doing now is we've shifted our focus. Let's go ahead and flip this over to part number 80, as you can see here. And part 80 is that servo frame that goes around, right around here. It's a plywood piece. You can see it's sitting just about flush with some of the formers here on the side, as well as the spars. The problem was the height was not tall enough for the servo going from the balsa base to the top of the frame. So I had to take a couple popsicle sticks and cut them, and you can see right there, and go ahead and to make it tall enough so the servo would clear the bottom balsa piece down in here. So basically the wing is done for the most part, except for having to go through and cover it and mount it and then put on the control surfaces. It's basically finished for the most part. All right, friends, so let's go ahead. We're going to get to the final little bits and pieces and more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update here on the wing, we've got our wing attached. So we've got our wing bolts in place. We're using 1/4 by 20. And we went ahead and we put in our actual dowel in the front. You can see it right there. In the center, and we've gone ahead, we put our canopy was already on previously, but what you're finding is that you're going to have to go ahead and trim this area here so you get a nice fit. And just to keep in mind that the frame that the canopy is sitting on needs to sit flush, so it did require a bit of trimming all through here. Outside of that, the only thing left we have to do is to go ahead and put on the winglets on the end of the plane, and those are just screwed in place, and I understand why, because if you have a hard landing, maybe a not quite level, you want it so that way they don't rip the wing apart. They just rip the screws out so that way you can easily replace it if need be. All right, let's go ahead, finish up those last little bits and pieces, and more to come. All right, friends, as you can see, we've got our winglets on. There's one over there, and there's one over there. Let me go ahead and show you what we did. Real simple. You're not gluing these on, you're just screwing them on. Just 3 little screws. That's all it is. Pretty straightforward, very simple. All right, that's it for the wing. It is truly 100% done. Let's go ahead and we're going to begin the process of covering and doing some painting. And I've decided I'm going to make my own cowl. We will have a separate video on that. That'll be the first time that I've ever done anything like that. So this will be an interesting process. All right, friends, more to come.